All right. Well, this is new territory for me, and I'm very, very excited to invite you into this live event. We're going to go through a couple different things, but most of all, I'm just really, really excited and a little nervous, I have to admit, to get this thing going. For those of you that are joining us and our subscribers, thank you very much. We are going to begin with, I should say those who are not, thanks for joining us as well. I'm going to get started with a little warm-up for all of us. If you've been singing today, just join in and sing along, which is kind of fun anyways. And if you haven't been singing, this is going to be just a nice, gentle warm-up through some different scales and different vowel patterns to get things going. And then we've got the lick of the week, which, by the way, I'll get to more about that later. Let's do some singing. So I'll play in two hands so everybody can sing along. Lower voices, you'll begin down here. Higher voices up here. I'm actually probably going to start up here and then switch to the lower one midway through just so I can keep on singing. A and ah sounds like this. A, ah, and a, ah, a, ah, and let's come back. We'll start down here again, and let's do A to O. I like to couple A and ah and A and O because A is such a great template for getting these vowels, those wider ah and O vowels, to resonate nicely. So A, O, and A, O, A, O, A, O, And finally, to wrap up our little warm-up here, we're just going to do E and U, the two narrow vowels. Again, higher voices there, lower voices there. E, and E, Now, those exercises, just a little gentle warm-up if you haven't been singing yet. And I want to get on to the lick of the week here. That's really annoying. I should turn that down a little bit. The lick of the week is it's a fun pattern, and we're going to do a couple different vowel patterns with it. So the pattern itself sounds like this. Then we're going to take a breath right there and finish it off like that. Okay. Now, you might want to try this with a lip trill first, and maybe we ought to do that. So we can begin with. So let's try that there. Again, lower voices here, higher voices there. I'm going to play it in my right hand and burble along with my left, and then I'll play both hands in a moment. So, take your breath. And keep lip trilling. A couple more. All right. Now, we're going to start with some vowels on this. I want to mention too, I believe the chat window is open, and there is a minor delay in the transmission. So we're going to do the Q&A right when we finish this section of the live event. So if you want to start typing in, if you got a second, freehand, I do have a couple questions that I want to answer from earlier this week that came through the comment section. But if you have comments that you want addressed, or I should say questions that you want addressed, type them in when you feel like it. So for vowels, E for starters. E. And your breath here. E. And then we'll carry on. Okay? So let's start here again. Low voices here. Higher voices here. And E. put some more vowels in there, and that will make it a little bit more challenging. For starters, we're going to switch to A on the held note and then follow through the rest of the exercise with A. So it'll sound like this. High voices, it's going to start there. Lower voices here. If it's too low, just hang on a second and it will get higher. And that's it. You can certainly put a lot more vowels into that pattern, but I want to get on to the Q&A. That's really what this is all supposed to be about. Again, the chat window, I think, is open. This is a first time for me doing this, so if you're typing and it's not working, leave me a comment somewhere on some video and I'll find it, or I guess you could leave a comment in this video. Because it will get archived to the channel once we're done here. And I will figure that out. And my apologies if you are trying to type in and it is not working. The question that came from, hey, there it is. Excellent, excellent, excellent. Okay, that's really great that that's working. I will get to that in just a moment. The question from earlier this week that came in, and I did the video on, was volume in singing and volume control as it pertains to getting louder and getting softer. And airflow and volume are intertwined for us. They're intertwined into our technique. Our voices will naturally get a little bit louder as we ascend if we stay loose and open and the larynx remains in a neutral or lowered position. That allows for greater airflow over the vocal fold. And if we're loose, the soft tissues in the soft palate and all the soft tissues that are in the oral cavity will resonate really, really nicely for us. We'll get that nice sound. The thing is that if you practice that, you won't notice a ton of volume change in the more neutral or thyroarytenoid dominant range of your voice, the chest range. Those volume changes are more noticeable as we ascend into the cricothyroid dominant range of our voices. So by way of explanation, here with my voice, not a lot of volume change, right? But here, I start narrow, and as I ascend, I open up, and then it reduces as I descend as well. Those volume changes are really, really crucial to our technique. And if we omit them from it, we try to maintain one singular volume throughout, then we can end up underpowering our voice, particularly in the zona di passaggio. And that is when we get into the issue of either squeezing or we flip into a more falsetto sound. Sometimes those are nice, and we may want them, and it's nice to know how to do them. But if we want to have a full range sound that goes through all of our different transition points, then ascending, staying open, and allowing more airflow to flow over the vocal folds is something that's necessary for us to do as we get into the zona di passaggio. So I see we have a question. Let me take a look at that. Practice my vocal practice. I notice the next day my voice seems to drop as I have a baritone sound. Is it because I practice long hours and not resting? Well, not necessarily. If you feel that your voice feels lower after you've had a long day of practice, I wonder if it then gets a little bit brighter as you get warmed up. When we first begin our practices, it's quite natural for our voices to not be filled with blood. The tissues aren't engorged with blood, and so they can vibrate a little bit lower. That's why first thing in the morning you may find that you have a few additional notes on the low end of your scale, right? But once you've warmed up, then you can normally sing into your normal range and even have more of those higher notes are more accessible to you. Let me know if that's the case with your comment. If it actually just stays that way, or if it does in fact change once you warm up. If you're not warming up, that may have a big part of the practice for you. Shout to Nolan, thank you. It's good to reconnect with you as well. It has been a while, but it's nice to see you popping up, and thank you for watching. Transitioning from classical to more pop soul singing style. I suppose there are probably a lot of ways to approach that, but the most significant one is going to be how much of the front resonance of your mask you're going to allow and how far down you're pressing the larynx. Pop vocal stylings and classical techniques are not mutually exclusive. In other words, they really help one another, more like the classical technique helps the pop technique. But if you're transitioning, in some of the videos that I've got online, they do really short notes, and they're very bright, and they're meant to help you find an even resonant placement. It's neither too far back nor too far forward. So if you are accustomed to being here, we, then with a more pop styling, that's further back, obviously. We're going to bring that a little further forward. We. A bit more balanced. It has a bit more front mask brightness to it. We want to keep the airflow, though. We want to keep that engagement and that lift that hopefully you would have learned in your classical studies. It's so important, and it's going to keep you so healthy. But I would think that you are well poised to make the transition, or at least incorporate pop music as an additional style. Larynx position can play a bit of a role in this. But I would never suggest you allow it to lift too far, because then you're going to end up with reducing too much of the airflow. Think about a much lighter tone in your thyroarytenoid dominant. Your chest range is going to be much lighter. And as you ascend, that lowered larynx position will become more prevalent again in your sound, even if you are singing pop. There's a great book that I wish I still had. I no longer have it, that had pictures of the larynx positions for all the apertures for different styles. And they're certainly all different as you go from one style to the next, and yet they are not necessarily that different. They definitely can work together. So think a little bit more neutral larynx position, then press down. A little brighter, lighter sound that has a little bit more front mask resonance. You know, another great exercise for that, which I know is in some of the videos, is the NG sound. It's as if you say hung. You feel all this resonance up here. And when you release that to an ah vowel, you try to keep that focus up front, nice and bright, and that will definitely point you in the right direction towards transitioning into a more popular genre sound, a style, a sound that's more pop-oriented. Let me see here. Good afternoon. Yes, Dwayne, I remember you. We've talked a bit on the comment section. Blending the registers. Passaggio smoothly, but it's not as strong as a chest voice. Yes, it will change. That will... I think there are two really, really crucial components to getting your transition through the secondo passaggio or zona di passaggio area smooth. So for starters, if you're still working it down, keep working down on it, right? And then you can start ascending. Notice how I make a diminuendo, or I get softer as I descend. Let me show you again. Pardon me. E gets narrower. E, narrower again and softer. E, narrower and softer. E, and then we begin ascending, right? E, the key is to be lighter on the thyroarytenoid muscle, so the chest voice, in other words, below the zona di passaggio, thyroarytenoid dominant singing, chest voice singing, we want to be light there. If we're light, it allows for an easier transition, but more importantly, the tissues in the oral cavity, which is the sort of phrase that we use for the inside of the mouth, in particular relationship towards the back and the esophagus. The oral cavity, those tissues are going to remain pliant, and as you ascend, you're going to be able to carry those resonances up into the upper register of your voice. And what that means is that you're going to get a more consistent timbre as you make your transition. So there's really two things here, right? There's allowing yourself to be lighter on the thyroarytenoid muscles on the bottom, so that as you ascend through the secondo passaggio, through the zona di passaggio, and you get that nice, smooth connection up, and we keep the resonance happening throughout the voice. The other thing, too, which I mentioned earlier and is also applicable here, is that change in volume. So it's light, e, and it crescendos or gets louder, and then diminuendos as we ascend and descend. You are very welcome, Susan. You're very, very welcome. Thank you for chiming in with that. I really appreciate it. My baritone range creates a pain in the top of the head. Nolan, I'm very sorry to hear that. I must admit, I've never heard of that before. So going to the head voice on the higher range of my baritone range creates a pain on the top of the head, and I suspect shoots up my blood pressure. Well, first of all, I would definitely have that checked out. If you can talk to a doctor about your blood pressure. I don't know if they could check you while you're singing or not. That would be an interesting thing to do. I suspect that one's blood pressure is somewhat elevated anyway when we're singing, because it's an activity. It's like running or weightlifting or something like that. When we do that, the exertion gets things going, and our blood pressure naturally elevates a little bit. I know this from personal experience because I used to take my blood pressure all the time after running, and I had these horribly high results, and I went to my doctor, and they're like, well, don't take it after you run. Take it later. So that's one thing. The pain on the top of your head, I suspect maybe some muscle tension is if you're flexing your TMJ joint or squeezing here. That could be exacerbating what's going on. What may help a little bit is, first of all, in practice this in a comfortable range before you start trying this higher up, okay? So maybe start, if you're a baritone, we want comfortable, so here maybe, right? And 2 fingers on the chin. We're putting these two fingers here to get this to open. It opens as we ascend, it closes as we descend. What I'm interested in is seeing if we can get a little bit more looseness in the jaw to occur for you. And when that's comfortable, then take it higher up and see if that helps. Okay? But again, not until you're comfortable moving the jaw in a comfortable range. Trying to go straight to the upper register of your voice you're just going to be working 2 things at once. We're going to take it one thing at a time. It's like the videos, and it's like in my private practice when I'm teaching. One thing at a time, one adjustment at a time. Yeah, I'm going to do these Q&As very regularly. I'm calling them office hours. So I'm going to do the office hours very regularly, and I would love to check in with that at a future date. You are welcome, Dwayne. Thank you. Waking up your voice when you wake up in the morning. I find it tough singing in the morning when I wake up. It takes me a long time before I'm ready. Any tips? Yes. Practically speaking, I think about it more in terms of how close you're waking up to when you have to sing. So if you need to sing at 9 a.m., then I would suggest you wake up between 6:30 and 7 to get up, relax, maybe a little bit of easy stretching, wake your body up. The most important thing, it's like when you're sick too. If you're sick, oftentimes it's okay to sing so long as you don't have like a postnasal drip that's really, really irritating the voice. But it's the body. If we're too tired, then we put all the weight on the vocal fold, and that's when we start doing things to our voice that we don't want to do. So wake up your body. Get up, move around a little bit, stretch a little bit. If you have a cup of coffee or a cup of tea, that sounds great. And then get into your warm-ups. If you don't have a specific warm-up routine, I might suggest one of the warm-ups on the channel. The warm-up playlist is on the channel page, and there's lots and lots of warm-ups. You might try one of the non-full range ones. See how that goes. And then take it from there. Hello, Edwin. Hello, Gregor. Edwin. It's 6 p.m. GMT. I don't know what time zone you might be in. Yeah, it's 6 p.m. GMT. We did go through a time change recently. I'm sorry if I caught you off guard. The first half of this you can certainly will be archived on YouTube, and you can go and have a look. I do apologize. BP does go up after singing. Well, that's very, very good to hear. I'm really, really glad that your blood pressure is normal. Sustain a high note singing. Yeah, I'd like to see if the jaw reduces tension. That might reduce some tension and make that a little bit easier. Also, check in with expansion. The more that we can put on the body, the big muscles of the body, Nolan, then the easier it's going to be for you overall. We just want to get the effort level down. So we want the big muscles working, and we want more relaxation there. You're very welcome, Gregor. It's a pleasure. Tenor warm-up videos. I can promise you that there will be more tenor videos. Chronic postnasal drip, you would have to talk to your doctor. I'm not an ENT or a doctor. And it depends on the level of irritation as well with your postnasal drip. If you're taking medication for it, that may mean that it's okay if it's staunching the flow, so to speak. But that's something for an ENT. Try the technique, as you mentioned, with the fingers on the chin makes a big difference. Oh, that's great! Wonderful, Nolan. Fantastic. That's really, really excellent. Yeah, I know I have to do a jaw loosening technique. I keep a list of comments and questions and things like that that come through to me. And I had meant to do a jaw loosening video this week as well, but it kind of slipped past me. But that will be happening in the very, very near future. But that's a good one. Another one, since we're talking about this, another way to help loosen up the jaw a little bit is if you take two fingers and let the jaw be in an open and neutral position, kind of a sort of a silly face. And you want to poke the fingers so that you get the cheeks in between your molars. Obviously, I can't play and do that at the same time, but what you get is this neutral jaw position, and you can practice your vowels that way, and it helps you to place them more in the back where they're all going to resonate. So you get this getting them all to resonate similarly with your jaw locked out that way will really, really help you to loosen this up as well. Food or drinks helpful for the voice. Also, is there any food and drinks I should stay away from the day of singing? Fantastic question. Thank you. Highly personal, though. For me, I can't drink green tea when I know I have to sing, even though I enjoy it. And I also can't drink tea, like black tea with milk in it. Beer, wine, alcoholic beverages are simply out of the question for me, though many people are perfectly fine with that. It is a very individual thing on how things work. In general, I wouldn't recommend drinking alcoholic beverages when singing. If you feel that you really want something, though, think low acid, something that's very low acidic, so nothing that's very hoppy, like ales, things like that. Anything that's like a Guinness would probably be all right if you really want to have something. But again, I am not advocating alcohol and singing. In terms of coffees and teas and things like that, I don't drink it in close proximity to when I'm going to sing. I try to keep an hour or two away from when I have to sing or perform, specifically because of the heat. Now, when it comes to foods, there's a lot of things that I can eat that you would think would gum you up. Yogurt, for one. I can eat yogurt without any kind of deleterious effects at all. But spicy foods completely wreck me. So that might be the acid thing as well. In terms of things that are beneficial, lukewarm or room temperature water, that is going to be the go-to item every single time. And beyond that, again, it gets very personal. Speaking for myself, I avoid spicy foods. I also try to eat low volumes so that I'm not getting really bogged down on stage. I don't want to crush a burrito and then walk out and have to perform. So typically it's salads and things like that with a little balsamic vinaigrette. Room temperature water. Room temperature water is always going to be the absolute go-to item, though, for us. Absolutely, Gregor. I will happily do some more quick tips. I'm sorry to hear that, Edwin, regarding the doctors. The thing with postnasal drip is that it's really, if it's a clinical thing, if you're in treatment for it, then you need to do what your doctor tells you to do. Yeah, Manuka honey, good for the voice. I have had that before, and I didn't notice anything good, bad, or otherwise. So I think you're probably okay. If you want to have some of that, if you're thinking like tea with a little bit of Manuka honey, you may experiment with a little bit of lemon in that as well to balance the thickness of the honey. Like literally a couple drops of lemon, again thinking about the acidity of it. We have someone writing in, Edwin, about postnasal drip and throat issues of mucus. And they're talking about dairy items. Yeah. Oh, I guess you guys can read the chat, can't you? I didn't think about that. Actually, and that's a good point. I don't take dairy items either when I'm going to be singing. So even though, I mean, yogurt is a dairy item, but I don't drink milk. I don't eat cheeses and things like that. Although when I have had cheese in the past, it hasn't had a really horrible effect on my voice. So I had planned to do a half an hour for this first Q&A, and we've gone a little bit over, but I'm happy to have done so. If there are any other questions, please send them in, and I will try to address them. I think I don't know if the chat will remain open once I go offline, but I want to thank you so very, very much for tuning in. If you are a subscriber, I thank you again, and if you're not yet, I'd love to encourage you to do that. Thank you so much for watching today, and thank you for watching in general. I will get some more quick tips, and I will get some more tenor range videos out there for warm-ups, and I'll take this last question here. When I'm singing in front of people, I find my voice not too much, but sometimes it can be a bit shaky from nerves. Yeah, breathing practice. Yeah, it's those two, that second chat comment and the nerves, I think go hand in hand. For me, because I get that too, I have struggled with performance anxiety. I mean, I get nervous. I'm nervous right now. And I get nervous when I cut the videos on a weekly basis to upload to the channel. I have to really, really get focused in order to do the job that I want to do. But I find that I focus on my breathing. In the Apagio video on breath, it talks about an expansion through here, and when we maintain that lateral expansion, these abdominal muscles have a much more direct impact with the diaphragm, and that's the anchor for me that helps me to settle down when I'm on stage. So I expand, I get engaged, and it's that engagement that really, really helps to get me not only to feel more comfortable. I should flip that around, actually. It settles me down, it anchors the sound of my voice, and that becomes this positive cycle, so that then I get to calm down and I start to feel more comfortable on stage, and from there everything gets better and better and better. So yeah, that Reitman and the Mober. Breathing practice and anxiety on stage, or nerves, or shakiness, they really, really do go hand in hand. And that's what's helped me. Different people will do different things. Visualizations can be very, very helpful. For a long time, I would anchor my sight over the top of the crowd rather than looking down into their eyes. But I like to make eye contact. I like to engage with people. So maybe look a little bit above until you settle down, and then start settling in and making that connection with the people that you're playing for. Because I think that's what they're there for. They're there to make a connection. Yeah. In any case, thank you very, very much, everybody. We're going to do this again really, really soon, so stay tuned, and I will be sure to, release more videos and take more questions. Thank you very, very much. As always, take really good care of your voices, enjoy singing, and hopefully I'll see you again. Bye.